He could do nothing but take the attack head-on. When the aura was directly in front of him, he struck at the red aura, which then shattered and disappeared. Quinn stood still for a moment. His new skill was one of his strongest attacks in comparison to others. The only one stronger was his blood hammer. Still, the person in front of him was easily able to shatter it with his weapon, and there didn't seem to be a chip or anything on it. Right now, Quinn had to be incredibly cautious if he was to get out of here alive. What he didn't know was that at the same time, the guard in green gear was having similar thoughts. What was that attack? It was so powerful, he thought. His hand was feeling numb from the impact of the blow, and it had taken a decent amount of strength for him to shatter that red aura. Who are you? You should know who we are. Why are you attacking? The guard tried to distract Quinn. Quinn spoke into the mask, which gave him an altered, deep electronic voice. We know what you have been doing. We know Pure have been following your actions for a while now. We're here to save those kids from you, Quinn said. Right now he was improvising on the spot, and Logan was helping him with what to say. The reason why Logan thought this would be their best option was since they wouldn't run an investigation on those closest to the kids. In a way, it was true that Pure had informed them of Mr. Truedream's plans, but they weren't the only ones taking action. Knowing this, they were less likely to think someone associated with the kids were trying to save them. Come on, Vorden, hurry up, Quinn thought. While Quinn was busy dealing with the guard, Raten, what are you doing? I said not to touch him, Vorden said. You know we don't have a clue about how his ability works. If it's like ours and we touch him, we might even lose our own, and then we would be defenseless. Maybe Aaron's ability was taken, but if ours gets stolen as well, we would become useless. I wasn't going to suggest that, Raten said. I think we should go here and now. That way he will no longer be a problem. The room was slowly heating up as the flames started to spread from one piece of furniture to the next. Soon the entire room would be engulfed. Peter had already left the room, carrying Aaron over his shoulder. He followed Logan's instructions, telling him where to go, making sure to avoid the hallway where Quinn and Kenny were fighting right now. The directions he was giving them were to his room. Right now, it was the safest place he could think of. Unlike the other rooms that had routine checkups now and then, Logan's room was different. It was off limits most of the time. This was a special request he made because of the number of different inventions he contained there. Afraid that someone would come in and possibly take on his ideas for profit. At this point, the smoke had hit the detectors above, and the sprinklers had been activated. However, the flames were too strong to completely get rid of the fire. It could only slow them down for now. Looking around the room, Jack could only see the students who were asleep in their chairs and was wondering what had caused the fire. However, when the sprinklers had turned on, the drops of water bouncing off Raten formed a slight outline to be seen. Raten not only had the abilities of fire, but of invisibility as well. The strange shape that Jack could see was standing right in front of him. If it wasn't for this, he would have dashed for the door. Raten had suggested Jack, but Vorden knew this wasn't an option. The simple reason was the balance of the current world right now. If Truedream were to die, it would go back to what it was like after the war. When the war had ended, Earth was a mess. Ruined cities, a low population of animals, and a lot of the land had sunken into the sea. The whole human race had been struck with poverty. Only there was a big difference now. They had powers. This caused more war to happen than ever due to the lack of control. Eventually, the rise of the three families had come to create some type of order, but the relationship between the three of them wasn't the best either, and the fighting continued. The military had power, but they weren't strong enough. They would have many people switching sides between them and the three families. That's why when Truedream had come to them seeking support, it was a blessing. It was someone the military could use to keep everyone in place, and it was why the current system had been put in the first place. If Truedream was to be taken out of the picture, the military power would weaken, and the power balance would be upset, leading to another civil war. But that wasn't what worried Vorden the most. Civil wars happened, and in the end, there would often be a result. The problem was, if the Dalki was to see this, if the humans were fighting each other, they would come to invade as soon as possible. For the sake of the current human race, Truedream was someone who needed to live, no matter how evil of a person he was. Vorden tried his best to explain this to Raten, but right now he didn't care, since he was in charge. "I disagree," Raten said. "If the human race can't survive without one person, then maybe we shouldn't be alive in the first place." Raten had set his hand ablaze and threw a punch right towards Jack. All Jack could see right now was a floating arm of fire. He tried his best to move out of the way, but the attack was too fast. As his hand full of flames was about to hit, a slight reflection could be seen in front of Jack. "What the?" His hand had touched the reflection, and it felt like he was hitting a solid wall. A mysterious force then moved from the point where he had hit, and it seemed to bounce off right back at Raten. "Hugo?" Jack said. As he turned his head, the large guard, wielding a two-handed axe, had entered the room. "Well, we know someone is getting a raise." "Damn!" With nothing else left to do, Raten quickly headed for the corridor. He didn't know Hugo's ability, nor how strong he was. He loved fighting, but wasn't crazy enough not to know when his chances were against him. "Hugo, the door!" Jack screamed. Hugo held out his hand, and another reflection appeared just in front of the door, but it was too late. Jack could see the figure moving through the sprinkler's water, and it was clear it was no longer in the room with them. "Damn it, you're too slow. Forget about that raise, let's get out of here." As Raten ran down the hallway, he could see Quinn, still busy dealing with the green guard Kenny. "I'm leaving," he shouted. And that was the signal for Quinn to disappear as well. Using his shadow cloak skill, suddenly he disappeared right in front of Kenny's eyes. A few seconds later, Jack and Kenny came out of the room. "Where the hell are they? Find them now, and find that girl and the boy. I want them dead, you hear me?" Jack shouted. Instead of listening to Jack's words, Kenny immediately ran back into the room they had exited from. He ignored both Jack and Hugo. The fire was still burning in the room, and the students were still asleep under his ability's effect. He lifted two of them on each shoulder and took them out of the room, placing them on the ground gently. He then did the same with the other four, and eventually guards had arrived to help extinguish the fire.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.